Welcome back to our final episode of The Curious Consumer for this year. I'm Nate.
I'm Jenna.
And we run a media company called Express Checkout. We cover the latest in the world of consumer brands, food and beverage brands, beauty and wellness brands, retail. And today we're going to cover what 2025 held for us, what it looked like, all the big trends, themes, winners and losers, and we'll talk about some of our predictions for 2026. Briefly. We're not going to go too crazy.
Yeah, we went through our entire year's worth of newsletters, which, by the way, was almost 90. Insane. We're trying to find some of the biggest stories of the year. And to us, so much feels important. And we already curate the news every week, so we're only sharing like the most important headlines. So to whittle that down even more was a behemoth of a task. So we'll preface with the fact that we're not going to hit on everything because we can't. And if you want to know everything that happened in 2025, you have 89 newsletters to read.
And Substack will read them to you. They do have a text-to-speech function. So.
But we'd like to think that we're going to hit some of the biggest themes of the year, as Nate said. And for anything we miss, feel free to email us or leave a comment in the podcast. We want to know if there's something that you were tracking on or that you even tracked on from just reading our content and you're like, how did you not mention that? I think this will be really fun. And we're hoping to not just do the themes that everyone's doing. We're going to mention protein here, but that is not the main
spoiler.
So,
spoiler alert.
With that, should we just get into it?
Let's get into it. Let's start with we put this in our notes as the big trend, and I actually think this might be one of the biggest trends of the year. Themes, excuse me. Themes. We like themes better than trends.
So of the themes, we have one overarching big theme that encapsulates a few.
Redefining function. And function and functional products have been, I don't know, a theme of a lot of different years. But I feel like in the past, a lot of function has been a little wishy-washy. Like, what the hell is ashwagandha? What does it do to you? I don't know. I couldn't tell you.
Still don't know.
It calms me down? Sure, maybe. But this year, there was a couple functional aspects to brands that were a lot more clear on what the function is. So first one, proteinification of everything. We have energy drinks and caffeine. THC was a really big one this year. And magnesium and sleep. These were sort of the biggest ones that we saw over 2025.
Yeah, so instead of functional, I think in previous years, as you refer to, meant functional mushrooms a lot of the time as an ingredient. That I feel like that's usually what it was, or added like vitamins, minerals, those kinds of things. But the functionality, I think people wanted it almost more in the moment. So something like energy and caffeine, something like magnesium to help you sleep in the moment, something like THC, which you feel the effect of immediately. And then protein, which I guess you don't feel in the moment, other than you might feel a little bit more satiated, which of course had to do with GLP-1s. And again, that's another trend that I think there are people who are far better at talking about how GLP-1s impacted what we're eating this year and how we view wellness this year. We're not going to really cover that, but that's obviously an undertone of a lot of the themes we will talk about. But yeah, within these subcategories of redefining function, let's just get protein in and out of the way. So some of the main
We ate
headlines,
so much protein this year. Oh my God.
We had so much protein this year. We also recorded 2 full podcasts on protein. So if you haven't listened to those yet, go check them out because we covered it far more in depth. But this was the year protein ate the world and the world ate protein. A few examples. I think the biggest one that will come to everyone's mind is David Barr, which emerged as a breakout star, to say the very least, raised a $75 million Series A after only 8 months in market. They were tracking to hit $100 million in revenue. I guess we still haven't seen those final stats come out, but I would be surprised if they didn't surpass that, actually. Other thing we saw is just maximizing protein in existing protein products. So a few drinkable proteins went from like 20 grams to 32 grams. Every brand seemed to have a 32 gram protein drink. So we had Slate Milk and Koya were some of the big ones. I think Oikos might have surpassed 32. We have Fairlife's protein drinks. So lots of drinkable protein.
A lot of drinkable protein. Legacy brands were also jumping in on this trend. Pop-Tarts came out with a protein Pop-Tart. And also Kroger came out with a private label protein line. Everything has added protein to it. Simply Protein, I think it was the name of the line.
Yeah. And then there's like, aside from adding protein to everything, which also we saw so many protein sodas launch, but aside from adding protein to things, consumers were really leaning into things that naturally had high protein. So we talked about Chobani being an 100-year brand, and throughout the year, Chobani had multiple milestones where they really demonstrated that they are just killing it. They increased their production capacity a ton. They acquired Daily Harvest. They're just doing really well.
They're crushing it. Yeah, we saw, God, there's so many protein things. Protein pretzels, protein chocolate, Hornbill's Chornbill's launched this year. My favorite name of a brand ever. And I think we'll see a lot more protein going into next year as well.
But other thing we had an episode about was energy drinks, because caffeine had a big year as well. So one of the biggest headlines, I mean, I think this actually might have been the biggest headline of the year, was Celsius's acquisition of Alani Nu for $1.8 billion. Crazy.
Yeah. No, it was huge. And as we've talked about in our podcast, aptly named Energy Drinks Are for the Girls, that is the massive category coming out of 2025 is energy drinks marketed towards women. Gorgie, has raised a bunch of money, and they just added Alex Earl as an investor and a partner, Alex Cooper, a different influencer. She also launched an energy drink, podcaster. And of course, Monster, who is one of the largest energy drink brands on the market. They are launching a female-focused energy drink line called Flirt, which we dove into in one of our newsletters and a recent podcast episode. We have thoughts on the name. We have thoughts on the strategy. But
they did it.
And gendered energy drinks are going to continue to grow. I mean, Bloom Nutrition, they launched a sparkling energy drink targeted towards women. In their first year, they sold 35 million cans and went from 0% of the energy drink market to 1%, which is actually insane. And they'll continue to gain market share as well.
Yeah. Liquid Death even entered the category. I guess this isn't really about targeting women as much, but that was a big sign about energy skyrocketing. Yeah. So Liquid Death entered the category with the energy drink. We just saw this will be a theme across multiple categories, but a lot of the legacy brands, their volumes declined and newer brands saw crazy growth. So you just mentioned Bloom's insane growth. Alani Nu grew 62.7%. The energy drink aisle is just going to look completely different. We actually talked about this in a recent newsletter when we mentioned Lucky Energy just raised, I think, a Series C. They've raised like 3 times last year.
They've raised so much money. It's a good energy drink.
And it is a good energy drink. But we mentioned, we spoke to a beverage expert, Mark Gallo, who was talking about how like this, we're entering the era of craft energy. So in the same way that there was like craft beer, there just needs to be a resurgence in energy. And it seems to be, I would say that 2025 set the foundation, and then it's going to grow immensely in 2026.
Another space that has been growing and another very functional space is the THC space, specifically THC beverages. That market has boomed over the past year. Total Wine and Spirits, which is one of the leading liquor stores in the country, they've expanded a lot of shelf space to THC and infused beverages. Target is even testing out selling THC beverages in 10 stores across Minnesota. Edible Arrangements launched edible.com to sell THC and infused products, including like gummies and mints and stuff. And there were just like a litany of launches and fundraisers. Uncle Arnie's, which is one of the leading THC-infused beverage brands in the country, they raised about $8 million and just this week launched a soda pop line. So functional sodas are getting a little bit more functional.
Yep.
It's a it is a crazy space. I think there's a little bit of uncertainty right now.
But we saw so many really cool THC launches. And just as Nate mentioned, with Target introducing THC, even though it was only in one state and was a test, there's just been a lot of legitimizing of the THC space generally. Like a company like Target taking a bet on THC on their shelves is a really, really big deal, even if it's just a test. And a marketplace like edible.com existing is a big one.
Huge one. Another one, our sort of final functional theme here is magnesium and sleep. We've seen a lot of products launch around this, and also just generally sleep being optimized, which magnesium fits really nicely into this. We're seeing it in gummy format, we're seeing it in powder format, we're seeing it in beverage format with beverages like Recess. Recess raised $30 million, and UK's Trip, which is a very similar brand, also raised around $30 million. They raised $40 million for US expansion. And Recess, which has been around since like 2018, 2019, they saw a lot of growth from launching their Recess Mood line, which is infused with magnesium. People really like magnesium and want to optimize their sleep and feel calmer too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, AG1's first ever product that wasn't AG1 is AGZ,
sleep,
which is a sleep product. I actually don't know anything about how well that launch did. I feel like it wasn't spoken about a lot.
No, I don't think they promoted
almost heard
enough,
nothing.
and I've heard nothing. I've also heard it's not doing so hot, so we'll see what happens with that. But I don't think the success of AGZ is not indicative of the overall magnesium and sleep space doing well.
No, I completely agree. I mean, we've seen, again, raises, launches. It's just been in the rhetoric, like so much more. People have been talking about magnesium and it being in beverages. I almost feel like that's one of the biggest moves of a supplement to the mainstream is when it's introduced in a beverage format. Like THC is a perfect example of that.
So convenient.
Mm-hmm. It's convenient.
So convenient.
And there is limited shelf space for beverages, especially chilled beverages. And so if there is any validation that like some of these beverages belong in that limited shelf space, that means that there is demand for that functionality. So I just think that we're going to keep seeing more magnesium launches in 2026. We had a newsletter where the deep dive was called Magnesium is the New It Girl. And I think it is the new It Girl.
Yeah.
It is.
I totally agree.
I did the whole deep dive in that one about how the brand Moon Juice was kind of like the catalyst for it. If anyone wants to check that out. But those were our functionality trends. And there's so much more to say in each of them. As I said, like protein, we could go on forever. There were so many more protein launches than we mentioned in this. Same with energy. But we're going to move on, because we don't want this episode to be 10 hours, to what we're pinning as the next theme of 2025, which is that we've seen the next generation of retail. Yeah. You want to explain what we mean?
Yes. Yeah. So when we were discussing this before we started recording, I was sort of saying that even over the past few years, the foundation for the modernization of the retail space is really being laid here, both in terms of like back-end operations and in-store operations, then also from like more the consumer side and also from the delivery side. But I think really over the next few years, and especially next year, we're gonna see the retail space become a lot more interesting. So I think one thing that's really interesting, and we dived into this recently, is the delivery aspect.
Yes.
And it just ultra fast delivery from a lot of different angles. Same day delivery. Target and Walmart both announced enhancements to their supply chain so that they could offer same day delivery options.
Yeah, actually that happened really early in the year, and we had a headline that we titled Same Day or Bust, and that only increased throughout the year. So that is certainly a trend. People want things, they want them now. I think another good indicator of that, it was Uber Eats partnering with like every retailer under the sun.
Everybody.
It's crazy. It started with Uber Eats partnering with, and their mother. It started with Uber Eats partnering with grocery stores, which makes sense, like Kroger, all of the big grocery stores. And then it moved into partnering with Sephora and PacSun and Dick's Sporting Goods, which is again, I'll say it again. They need to rebrand. It can't be called Uber Eats anymore. It doesn't make sense.
No. No. You can get a laptop. I think one of the coolest things about the ultra fast delivery is the drones, though. Like the growth of drone delivery in this country over the past year, it's been really cool to see. I would love things delivered by drones, but I doubt drone delivery will come to Manhattan anytime soon. But I do think we'll start to see more autonomous last mile options. DoorDash has that robot with the cute eyes that can go like 20 miles an hour down the street. Dots. It's very cute looking. I thought Dot was very cute looking.
Yeah. So, no, it is cute. So we definitely have delivery and enhanced delivery as one of the big pieces of the next generation of retail. And then I think the other piece is just some of these retailers that were seen as budget retailers are now attracting more affluent shoppers, or are trying to rebrand in such a way to attract more affluent shoppers. So actually, I forgot about this, but in January, Walmart rebranded. They changed their logo, and it was one of those things that's like you need to see them side by side to even notice a change. But it was enough
barely a change.
It was really a change, but it's a little bolder, cleaner, and just felt overall very symbolic of what ended up being a really big year of changing their demographic and what they actually carry in store. And their private label is very premium now. They also are removing all dyes and synthetic ingredients from their private label. They launched a competitor to Amazon groceries, and they have had countless wellness launches. So they really doubled down on their wellness sets, which again is attracting a totally different customer, and they're just premium now.
Yeah. No, they have something for everybody. And with Target slightly on the decline and Walmart wanting to take some market share back from Amazon, they've been doing a lot. I mean, we got to go to a Walmart event where we got to see some of this stuff firsthand and talk to some of the team at Walmart. And they're really pushing fun new brands like Lemmy and Bloom and all of the and Jams is a new Uncrustables competitor, launched at Walmart. Now it's also at Target, but it launched at Walmart. And Better Goods, which is their new private label line that they launched this year, is a very premium, well-branded, well-merchandised, well-thought-out private label brand that has unique and better for you products. I think it directly competes with Target's Good and Gather, and it has brought in a more affluent and higher end consumer. And there were reports about the average income of a Walmart shopper is like more people in a higher income bracket are going to Walmart now. One, because Walmart is within 90% of Americans. So everybody has a Walmart near them, I think within 5 miles. But also to your point, their assortment is getting better and more interesting. And they're doing a lot to get more people away from some of these other retailers. So it's really cool to see Walmart's ascent over the past year.
Yeah, and there are just so many brands. We're not going to list all of these out, obviously, but I just never expected so many of the brands that we really associate with like Better For You and premium making these really loud, proud launches around getting into Walmart nationwide. It is like, from the brand perspective, also a really big deal now.
I mean, I think it's partially also a lot of brands realizing they need to make money and be profitable. And a lot of the ways to do that is to get into a mass market retailer like Walmart. So and also like all of these retailers are prioritizing more emerging and trendy new brands. So that's also very good to see.
I think that's actually a trend in itself, is that we're seeing a lot of retailers just take bets on emerging brands more and more.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And another trend in retail is that all of these retailers are also starting to play around with formats, especially smaller formats, more nimble formats. So Whole Foods introduced a small format here in New York, and I actually got to go to the opening, which was really cool. And it seems to be doing very well. They just opened up another small format location, I believe, in Queens. And there's some other retailers also playing around with small formats. Even Trader Joe's launched a small format store, which is funny because their stores are not huge. But they did launch a small format store here in New York as well.
Yeah, and on formatting, I do think it's worth a quick mention that Whole Foods launched what they're calling micro fulfillment centers in one of their stores in Pennsylvania, which is just a really small little area in the back. I compared this to like where you pick up prescriptions at a pharmacy, where you can pick up non-Whole Foods products, so products that don't meet Whole Foods standards but are carried on Amazon at your Whole Foods location. We only saw one launch this year, but I think that'll be something that will be doubled down next year. We had a lot of thoughts on that. That was in another podcast, but just another example of store formats are really changing and increasing accessibility to lots of different products in one place.
Our next theme is around teens separate, and then also men as new target consumers for beauty and skincare. Both these buckets, obviously teens have been targeted for a long time, but we're seeing even like teen founded brands starting to come onto the scene.
Oh yeah. There were so many teen skincare and teen fragrance launches, and there were so many men's skincare and men's fragrance launches. So trying to bring these different target markets into this beauty skincare space. Some of those examples, as you mentioned, were actually launched by tweens. An example of that is Sincerely Yours, which was launched by Salish Matter, who is a tween YouTube creator with her dad. And when she launched her brand, quite literally they had to shut down the mall because she tried to do a meet and greet, and there were hundreds of thousands of teenagers who showed up for this launch of like face wash essentially, and it's insane to see that.
Absurd. She got more people coming to this launch than when Mr. Beast held an event there, and he's the biggest YouTuber on the planet.
But the teens love their skincare. Teens love their skincare. Yes Day was another example, early ERLY skincare, and then fragrance for teens also was huge. And this is because we're seeing a lot of teens and just Gen Z, I would say, kind of play around with fragrance a little bit more and build fragrance wardrobes. So they're trying more than one. And then a acquisition that is such a strong indicator of teens playing around with skincare is Touchland's acquisition by Church & Dwight for $800 million. So Touchland is a hand sanitizer company, but their whole shtick, other than the fact that it's like the format is very thin that can fit in your pocket, is that they come with really cool fragrances. It's a fragrance, I would almost say, more than it is a hand sanitizer.
100%. It is pungent too.
So that's another really good example of just and market validation of teen fragrance. And do you want to do the men's stuff? I feel like you're really passionate about the men's stuff.
I am. I think it's a really interesting category because it feels like we're at the precipice of men actually starting to dabble in skincare. I think we're going to start seeing it probably more with fragrance. I think it's an easier way to get somebody into the fold. It's not really taboo. There's a lot of men's fragrances out there, and we saw some launches. Noteworks by the genderless fragrance brand Sniff launched Noteworks, which is targeted towards men. Harry's has been growing, and we've also seen some body care launches and acquisitions. Dr. Squatch was acquired for $1.5 billion by Unilever. Dr. Squatch is a more natural leanings men's skincare line. Sahil Bloom, who is a big entrepreneur, personal I don't even know what kind of influencer he is. Sahil Bloom,
one of those
like big influencer. He's got like a couple million followers across multiple channels. He launched a skincare line. Curious to see how that one does. It's a bit more premium, but he does have a big following. I'm sure he's got a lot of men following him, so I'm very curious to see how that goes. I think the men's skincare market is on the up. There's brands like Huron, there's brands like Jack Fur that are starting to make some traction. I think it's starting to become a lot less taboo to have something to have men in this country use skincare beyond just like a Cetaphil. And I'm excited to see what brands come out over the next year too that are targeting men a bit more.
Yeah.
So I think that's something that's gonna come up more in 2026. But aside from men, kids are getting targeted with skincare too. Not just tweens, kids, 3-year-olds.
Yeah, we had a very controversial launch, which you can see again in our podcast episode, Skincare for 3-Year-Olds. Reenie by Shay Mitchell launched, which is a children's skincare brand. And our thoughts are in that episode. Kids were even being targeted for sure. And then, I mean, also on the market validation side, Elf acquired Rhode. That's a huge piece in teen skincare. I mean, of course, Rhode isn't only targeting teens, but one of the products which we spoke about in our recent episode, Why Every Brand Has a Lip Balm Now, is Rhode got really popular for their lip balm, and they got really popular with a really young audience, and a phone case that fits the lip balm in it. And that is
genius.
A huge piece of
it's genius marketing.
That's a huge piece of how Rhode ended up doing so well. And then a company like Elf, which again is really targeting a younger consumer. They have lower price point products. They're very social media friendly. They were able to acquire Rhode, which is a really big deal. I think everyone was kind of underestimating Elf until this year. And then they were like, oh, this brand that has like $2 products is actually a brand to compete with.
Yeah, for Elf, it's the power of dupes.
And then the other piece of market validation that we're, I think, going to see in 2026, and we're seeing the seeds planted now, is that teen targeted brands like Bubble, which is another teen skincare brand, and Starface, which is famed for its star-shaped pimple patches, are both exploring sales with strategics this year. So definitely curious to see if they do get acquired in the next year. But yeah, so teen and men, skincare and fragrance, huge theme of 2025.
Yes. Yeah. And again, I think it's one of those themes that it's like laying the groundwork for an even bigger trend going into 2026.
Absolutely.
Our next theme is big strategic CPGs are streamlining their portfolios significantly. Yes. Kraft Heinz announced they're splitting into 2 companies only after a decade of being Kraft Heinz, which is crazy. Ferrero bought WK Kellogg, which is the cereal business of Kellogg's, for $3 billion, which is nuts. So this includes like Fruit Loops, Frosted Flakes, Special K. Most of the cereal aisle is now going to be owned by Ferrero, which is the European candy company. And we sort of dove into this in our newsletter about this news story, but there's sort of like a couple reasons that CPG companies are starting to streamline themselves. Private label is eating their lunch. Private label is taking up a big piece of consumers' shopping habits now. The consumer loyalty is starting to fade. There's a lot of younger consumers who are starting to switch brands. There's an innovation crisis. These big strategics are not really innovating. They're pretty much just acquiring. And the startups are winning. The startups are taking a lot of market share from these strategics. And there's a lot of reasons for that. But the fact of the matter is, there's a lot more players in this space. There's a lot of ways for newer brands and smaller brands to get more eyeballs and take some of that share away from these bigger strategic brands that have hundreds of millions of dollars to spend on marketing a year. It's so interesting. But yeah, I mean, I think the way the economy is going, a lot of these strategic CPG companies need to streamline so they can focus on their core competencies, their core businesses, their core brands, so that going into the next few years, they can really win and maintain their market shares.
You summed it up perfectly.
Thank you. Yeah.
Nothing to add.
That's great.
So those are our themes for 2025, but we did want to do like quick rapid fire round of just some crazy things that we bet you forgot happened in 2025 because we forgot
CPG is wild. There was some crazy shit.
And retail. Mm-hmm. There was some wild things that happened. I'm going to kick it off with one that we should have, no, not what you think it is. One that you would think we would have mentioned in the themes of the year, but I like it more as a crazy thing that happened, which is that Poppy was acquired. That was a huge deal.
Yeah.
Poppy was acquired for $1.5 billion. 1.5 billion. And why I'm putting this as a crazy thing that happened is because of a headline that we crafted that ended up actually kind of popping off on LinkedIn, which was that Poppy was acquired for more than Versace was acquired this year.
I forgot about that. That is fucking crazy.
I know. That's a crazy thing that happened. Crazy thing that happened was that Prada bought Versace from Capri Holdings for $1.4 billion, which is less than $1.95 billion if you're paying attention to Pepsi's acquisition of Poppy, which means a 47-year-old luxury fashion house was worth less than a 7-year-old better for you soda. That is crazy. And
that is insane.
We broke it down in that newsletter, but basically Versace is like more of a play in perceived value, but Poppy is a play in projected value. They are already killing it. They have had 122% year-over-year sales growth through early this year, so can only imagine that has increased significantly since then. And they're playing in the functional beverage space, which is projected to hit $2 billion by 2029. So Pepsi is betting on Poppy killing it, and I think Prada was betting on Versace just staying the same and being an accessible...
That's luxury.
It's luxury, yeah, of course. That is, luxury doesn't change. That's why it's luxury. But being an accessible, high volume, mass market brand is very valuable. So people need to stop sleeping on CPG. And that was the first crazy thing that happened. But now we'll get into the actually silly, crazy things that happened. I'll let you kick that off.
All right, let's do some rapid fire crazy things that happened. David, the protein bar, released cod, which they're still selling on their site, mind you. They're still selling filet of cod on their website. And everybody was talking about it. And this was all a marketing promotion to show that the David bar's calorie to protein ratio is so close to cod. That was on their site from day one. That's why they did this. And they're still selling it on their site, which is so funny to me.
Yeah, the internet was like, is this a gimmick? Is this real? And then people ordered it, and it is real, but it's also a gimmick. And honestly,
and also more expensive than like buying it in a grocery store.
Oh, for sure. I mean, it's premium. It was bought by an Alaskan farmer, sourced by an Alaskan farmer. Yeah, that was one nutty thing that happened. One of my favorite nutty things that happened. Actually, that's really messed up to say. It's not my favorite thing that happened, but it's just crazy how crazy it is, which is there's this company called Better Brand, which makes low-carb, high-protein bagels. They were previously valued at $170 million, which doesn't make sense, actually. It just doesn't. And they faced allegations of fraud and deceit after they defaulted on a $700,000 loan. And after all that happened, the founder, Amy Yang, went missing. Is impossible to locate. She was accused of conspiracy and disappeared off of the face of the earth. Customers are not receiving their bagels. Duh. And that was crazy. Like the internet like blew up about this. Like nobody could understand how she is the Elizabeth Holmes of bagels is really what it is. Do we know that the bagels are actually high protein, low carb? No. Do we know what was going on in the back end of that business? No. People had pictures of the product that they received that looked completely different. That too. And then the pictures. So that was just like a crazy, like highly respected brand in maybe 2023. I wouldn't say even by 2024 that just like busted and then burned to the ground in 2025. Yeah.
Yep. So fun. Another one is Doritos and Cheetos went streaking. They got rid of their color. They got rid of their colors. Yeah. So PepsiCo, don't worry, they're still selling Doritos and Cheetos in the bright neon orange that they should be sold in. Mm-hmm. But they did release a limited edition of their naked versions without any food colorings. And honestly, they look unappealing to me.
They don't look so good. Yeah.
I like the neon colors. Sue me. I love a food dye.
Shocking. That was another crazy one. You're right. And then we've mentioned a few times that this was the year of the dupes, but under that, and this isn't that shocking, but it is impressive that Quince just came up multiple times throughout the year, and they raised $200 million at a $4.5 billion valuation. So another brand to watch. We've talked about them a ton, but that was like a crazy raise that happened. This isn't a crazy thing that happened, but just like a weird string of occurrences, which is just so many like weird things around PB&J. Like, so we kick off the year with Chubby Snacks. Chubby Snacks closing its doors. Chubby Snacks was supposed to be a better for you frozen peanut butter and jelly, frozen Uncrustables. It was a better for you Uncrustables. They had lots of lawsuits going on. They end up closing their doors. Then Uncrustables for the first time launches some limited edition products, which is cool. We also have Lunchables launched a dippable crustless PB&J.
Right.
And then we had Dropout Brands, which is one of these brands to watch, launch Jams, which is a high protein, better for you Uncrustable that is in Walmart. And I just am like, why was there so much PB&J news?
It's comforting. And we're in troubled times, and I want comforting things in troubled times.
You're totally right. Yeah. So it's
my analysis.
Another interesting one.
Yeah, there's some crazy shit that happened this year. Shall we go into the winners of 2025? Let's
do it.
Let's do it. Let's start with our first winner, Chobani. They, as we've said, are really positioned to be the next 100-year brand, the next century-spanning brand. They acquired Daily Harvest on apparently very favorable terms. They raised $650 million on a $20 billion valuation, and they broke ground on a $1 billion plant in upstate New York. They saw a lot of success this year, and they were everybody's favorite flavored creamer as well, including mine.
The best flavored creamer. Chobani's totally a winner. Mm-hmm.
Chobani's a winner. Next, David Protein.
Yeah. David Protein's a winner in that, as I mentioned, they had a really good raise, really great sales. They also acquired their ingredient supplier, Epigee, which makes the modified fat that allows them to be a low-calorie, high-protein, doesn't taste like cardboard bar, which then subsequently there were some lawsuits around that, but they still kind of just are coming out on top, it seems. I don't know if we really know the results of those lawsuits yet, where basically other brands who were using this ingredient, EPG, this modified fat, were claiming that this stunted competitive practices because other brands can't use this ingredient when they bought it. But they had some good lawyers. So we'll see what happens there. But it appears that David Protein is going to keep coming out on top. Another winner I'm going to add is Ulta. Ulta was a huge winner this year. Ulta had so many launches, particularly wellness launches. They expanded their wellness shop from 4 to 8 feet in most stores to 30 to 45 feet in over 400 stores, and launched brands like TheraBody, Ritual, Bloom Nutrition. They also ended their partnership with Target, where they had a store within a store at a lot of Target stores, which sounds like it might be a bad thing, but actually Target was one of our losers of the year, and Ulta really came out on top of that deal. They don't really need Target anymore. So I actually think that they're going to benefit a lot by standing on their own 2 feet. So Ulta's another winner there.
Another retail winner we would say is Aldi. They opened almost 200 stores this year. They did 16 stores in a single day the other week. They have their first namesake brand launch, which is crazy that they haven't really done that yet. They bought a bunch of Winn-Dixie locations down in the South, and they're going to be expanding a hell of a lot more in the US. Mm-hmm. They will, I think we said they're poised to be the number 3 largest grocery store in the US by 2027, give or take.
Yep.
insane. They are going to crush it. And I'm excited to shop at Aldi a little bit more here in New York. Another winner, sauces. The year started and ended with sauce. So Saws is a good example of one. They launched in Whole Foods and Sprouts, and they raised $12 million from Kavu. Campbell's invested more money into Rayo's. They acquired around 49% of their manufacturer, and they're just a multitude of fast-growing brands, from Monty's to Matriarchs to Yo Mama's to Eat Happy to Hoboken Farms. Just so much sauce. And we're pretty much just talking about pasta sauce here. There's other sauce and condiment brands that have also been winning this year, but god damn, there's so many pasta sauces. So pasta sauces won this year. Hell yeah.
Yep.
Love it.
Yep. No, for sure. Pasta sauce was kind of the sleeper winner. Perhaps
sleeper winner.
Not overvalued, but something that has been talked about maybe too much as a winner is functional beverages, or more appropriately, I would say the modern soda category. But they are a winner this year. This year, I think this is something I also forgot about. Olipop raised $50 million at a $1.85 billion valuation. This kind of got pushed to the side after Poppy got acquired, but that was a huge deal. And they showed better returns to their early investors than OpenAI, as in ChatGPT's owner, did. 256 times returns to their early investors. So Olipop had a great year. Poppy sold to Pepsi, as I mentioned. Culture Pop raised $15 million. Cove Soda raised. Hayo, which is, well, it actually is a functional soda and an alcohol alternative, raised $20 million in funding and secured a partnership with Live Nation, which Live Nation's partnership with Liquid Death is really what took it, put Liquid Death on the map. And so that's going to be huge for Hayo. So another great year for functional beverages / the modern soda category.
Yeah. And I think our final winner of 2025 was Gen Z founders. There were so many Gen Z founders who saw a lot of success this year. Whiny Baby was acquired by Gallo. Saws has 2 Gen Z founders. They've seen a lot of viral success. Good Girl Snacks, Sour Milk. Habiza Hummus has a Gen Z founder. They became Erewhon's top-selling hummus. They launched in Target, and they even raised money and partnered up with food media company Food Beast. And there are literally countless more amazing Gen Z founders and brands out there that have been crushing it and have seen a lot of, especially viral success, if anything, but has also seen their brands get great distribution and fundraising. So it's very exciting to see young founders see that success. So shout out Gen Z founders.
For sure. There were so many more. Yeah, I think those are all of our winners. And honestly, I don't really want to go too deep into losers of 2025. I think we can just briefly mention that we're a positive publication. Yeah, I mean, the writing's kind of on the walls. I think people know who like the losers were, and I refer to some companies that struggled earlier. So we don't need to really go too deep on that. But respect. But I want to, before we move into our 2026 trends, just give a quick little shout out to, I guess, another like win in general of 2025 is just there was a lot of capital that was raised for CPG. So Monogram Capital Partners closed an oversubscribed fund. Emil Capital Partners, Shore Capital Partners, Aria Growth Partners, VMG, they all closed funds specifically for consumer brands, and they will hopefully be deploying what amounts to billions over the next year. So that's like a really hopeful, exciting win in CPG and in the fundraising side of things.
I love to see it. Bet on CPG. Clearly it performs well based off of the Olipop return compared to OpenAI, and we'll link more detail on that in the show notes. But should I start with 2026 trends, Jenna?
Yes, or are we saying themes?
Themes, trends, potato.
Yeah,
let's get into it. So something that, and I love the way you phrase this, science-backed skincare versus farmstead vibes. That was definitely a theme that we didn't really fully touch on, but that was something that happened in 2025. what I think is that those two sides will come to a head in 2026. I think we're seeing it in skincare, and I think we're seeing it in food and beverage. People will make their choices and lay a stake in the ground on where they stand. I actually think we'll see a lot more science-backed skincare and a lot more science-backed like food and beverage stuff coming up and gaining a lot more traction as this farmstead vibe and some of these products have maybe not performed as well and are starting to wane a little bit more. And especially since there's a lot more creators who are nutritionists and dermatologists and doctors and just really well-informed individuals who are starting to gain a lot of traction online, basically just calling out a lot of BS in the skincare and food space. Another thing that, again, we saw in 2025 that we will continue to see in 2026 is more private label improvement and takeover. I think as the economy continues to be uneasy, I think more and more people will lean to consuming and buying private label. But I also think a lot more brands or a lot more retailers will start pushing more dollars into private label, seeing the success over 2025. And it's been very impressive to see the growth, but also the improvement in a lot of this stuff. So I think we're going to see a lot more of that going into 2026.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the other big piece that we saw the foundation get laid this year, and we will only see increase in the next year, is AI in e-commerce. And we can take this 1,000 different directions, the biggest being that OpenAI/ChatGPT partnered with both Etsy and Shopify. So now you can instantly check out within ChatGPT, within a chat, and that is completely going to change shopping behaviors. It already has. I know Black Friday, Cyber Monday saw, I think it was an 800% increase in using AI in some way to shop, but every retailer is going to be integrated into OpenAI if it's not already. Like, if you're not doing GEO, you're behind pretty much. So that Correct. Is just completely changing to the point that I'm curious if it'll even matter that much to have like an amazing landing page in 2026. I think it still will, just to like legitimize your product. But I do think that a lot of people will just be checking out within the ChatGPT app. So that is changing everything. And then the last trend that, again, saw the foundation laid in 2025, I think we're just going to keep seeing it skyrocket in 2026, is the women's hormone health explosion. And I mean this mostly in supplements. We have just seen a ton of products both launch and raise funding. Parallel, which is a women's hormone health supplement brand that specifically targets women at different points in their cycle and different points in their like hormone health aging process. It raised $27 million. Biologica is a new women's hormone health supplement that just launched that similarly targets women at different stages in their life as opposed to different stages in their cycle. But women's hormone health has kind of quietly, I would say, been building up for years. And this year really is validating that this is a space that consumers are interested in. And I think we're going to see a lot more launches, a lot more funding go towards it, and hopefully a lot more women feel better.
Yeah, I hope so. And look, fiber. We'll see fiber. Yeah, fiber.
Yeah, we were like, we don't want to do the ones that everyone is doing.
But yeah, we should mention it, fiber. We're all going to poop so well next year. It's going to be crazy.
That's the trend. The trend of next year is
we're going to poop well next year.
Fiber. It's just spending more time on the toilet, which also means look out for some of those trendy hemorrhoid cream brands, because that's where we're all going to be. I mean, if you're really forward thinking, actually, if you don't bet on fiber, bet on hemorrhoid creams, like the company asset. Yeah. No, I'm so serious, actually.
Exactly.
always think one step ahead.
Bingo. I think that's a great way to end. This is our final podcast of 2025, which is wild. Thank you for listening. Thank you for leaving a review on Apple Podcast. Thank you for subscribing to our newsletter, Express Checkout. And you can find us on Instagram. But thanks for listening. Thanks for a great year. And we're excited to see y'all in 2026.